Well, Texas Democrats have done it again.
Oops, I did it again.
They exited the state. They literally left Texas to make sure House Republicans can't pass a bill they don't like. Here's the real story behind this cowardly move and why it spits in the face of all Texans. Let's start with some headlines. Texas Democrats walked out to block the GOP. How well has this tactic worked before? Democratic Texas lawmakers explain why they're camping out in Chicago suburbs. Arrest warrants issued for Texas Democrats who fled the state to break quorum. Well, there were two issues here. First, the bill that sparked this debacle, which is about congressional redistricting, sometimes known as gerrymandering. But the real story in my book is how Dems have run away and abandoned their responsibility. And this isn't the first time. Back in July of 2021, the Texas House Democrats spent 38 days in D.C. to protest a voting bill. The bill passed after they returned. Now these Dems are playing cat and mouse once again. So let's talk about this. What is congressional redistricting? It's usually done every 10 years after a census, and state lawmakers redraw district boundaries to reflect changes in the population. This way, as a state or district grows, it gets more representation in state and federal government. Now, this often leads to a shift in power, resulting in more Democratic or Republican districts, depending on the new boundaries. But you don't need to wait for a census. For over 200 years, states have redrawn political maps between censuses to help shift the balance of power. Like I say, it's called gerrymandering. It's controversial because the new boundaries can give some groups more of a voice and some groups less. It can tip the scales in state government, the U.S. House, and could turn a state red or blue in the next presidential election. The Brennan Center for Justice calls gerrymandering deeply undemocratic. They have every right to feel that way. It is controversial. The question is it legal? And the answer is yes. In 2019, the Supreme Court ruled that gerrymandering for party advantage cannot be challenged in federal court. And that means each state can decide when it's time to redraw political maps. And each state has its own set of rules and procedures, not just Texas. We've seen examples of gerrymandering in Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and not just Republicans. Illinois Democrats reduced Republican seats from 5 to 3 through redistricting. Now, one important note, there is something called racial gerrymandering. That's when you redistrict to take away the voice of minority voters, and that is very much illegal. But that's not what we're talking about here. Texas Republicans say they are entitled to more seats in the U.S. House based on Trump's victory over Kamala Harris. 56% of Texans voted for Trump, the highest vote margin since George W. in 2000. Redistricting will send 5 more Republicans to D.C. after the 2026 midterm elections. Is that fair? Is it right? Look, I'm no political scientist. There's a legal process and there's a political process when it comes to redistricting. And you know what's not part of the process? Lawmakers running away from their responsibility instead of staying and debating it, fighting it out, negotiating it, horse trading, whatever it is they do. And where are these Texas Democrats? Well, I can tell you one thing, they're not in Texas, where they were elected to be and stay and do their jobs. Because without a quorum in Texas, there can be no vote. Now, most reportedly fled to Illinois, where they say, quote, "We plan to stay as long as it takes." Now, that scheme was cooked up with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who met Texas Dems in June. Now, Pritzker said, "This is a righteous act of courage."
This is a righteous act of courage. And we can all take a page from these leaders' playbook. When you show people that you have the will to fight, well, they can muster the will to fight too.
Since when is running away courage? Remember, I said Illinois Dems use gerrymandering to its advantage. The Princeton Gerrymandering Project, an independent analysis of partisan bias in states' maps, gives Illinois a big fat F. Classic pot calling the kettle black. Now, there were some other Texas Democrats in Massachusetts to attend a national conference of state lawmakers. No surprise, California's Governor Gavin Newsom and New York's Governor Kathy Hochul are offering Texas Democrats a place of refuge. And they are threatening to change their congressional maps to counteract what happens in Texas. Wait, Newsom and Hochul are 100% opposed to Texas redistricting, but yet they'll do it in their own states? Now, again, I'm not a political scientist. I cannot debate the pros and cons of gerrymandering, but here's what I do know. Democrats are making a mockery of themselves and the system. Governor Abbott should arrest them all. Even if you're a hardcore Democrat, we can't allow or reward this bad behavior. These people were elected to do a job. They have a responsibility, and if you don't like redistricting, use the courts, use your vote, or do a better job to win elections. But don't just run away. If you're an elected leader, treat yourself and others with dignity and respect. Do your job. And to do your job, you have to be here. Be heard. Weigh in. Argue the point. And don't be a hypocrite about it. That's the real story. Wherever you're getting the real story, make sure you subscribe and follow. I'll see you tomorrow. I used to sleep terribly, but I found Beam's Dream Powder, a science-backed, healthy nighttime blend packed with ingredients shown to improve sleep. Beam is founded in America and run by people who share our values of hard work. Their Dream Powder is made with a powerful blend of all-natural ingredients: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. Here's the deal. Beam is giving my listeners the ultimate Patriot discount of up to 40% off. Try their best sleeping dream powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/Dr. Phil and use code Dr. Phil at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Dr. Phil and use code Dr. Phil for up to 40% off. Sleep better, wake up stronger, and show up ready for your family, your work, and your country. Because when you're well rested, you're unstoppable. And this country needs more people like that.